Happy thoughts.
You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Welcome back, everybody. It's John C. and the ever amazing Wendy Lee, and we're here for another episode of Prosper in the Kingdom. Today is it, man. I can't believe we're on the last day of 2025. All your goals and hopes for 2025 kind of drilled down to today. So this year flew by. I don't know what you think, Wendy, but man, it went quick.
Yeah, every year gets faster. I'm determined. That's just the way it is.
My grandma told me that when I was a little kid, and I think I was like 10 or something. And I was like, man, I wish I was turning 13. She's like, oh, don't wish your life away. It'll go fast enough. I'm like, I didn't say this. I got in serious trouble. But I'm thinking, whatever, old lady, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, out of the mouth of babes. But we're not here to talk about that today. We're building on the 3M Wealth framework that we've been talking about. And today we're talking about the make phase, why the income, AKA the margin we talked about last week, sets the ceiling on everything else that you're doing, right? Again, we're here to help everyday people become healthy, wealthy, and wise through practical stewardship and real life strategies. So make sure, if you're able to, take some notes on this and apply it. Let's not let 2026 be the same or worse than 2025, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, just to kind of jump right in, they'll try to budget their way out of an income problem. And I think that the budget is cornerstone. I like to call it a spending plan because, a lot of people think of a budget like, oh, that means I can't spend anything. No, it just means you need to be in control of where your money's going, right? Be intentional with it. But, it doesn't really fundamentally change anything other than help you really kind of hone in on maybe you are overspending. But today I want to talk about that income strategy, the make phase, making more money. And that has to be emphasized early without falling into the trap. And you'll hear this from other gurus out there that, hey, do one step at a time. But you don't want to fall into that trap of stopping everything else, right? Yeah. Make, manage, multiply. It must be worked together with the right weighting in each category at the right time, right? Yeah. So, that's really kind of the emphasis on this episode today. But let's talk about why most people feel stuck even when they're trying. I can relate to that. I don't know, Wendy, if you've ever had a situation where you seem like you're, swinging for the fences and it's just like running up a muddy hill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that lack of clarity is a huge part of it. But the truth is that most people that feel financially stuck, they're not careless or irresponsible, right? Most of the time, they're disciplined people that are working hard and they're trying to do all the right things. So the real issue isn't really their effort, right? It's really, when we're talking about the make phase, it's that margin. So you can't, as much as I love spreadsheets, I would always pride myself back in the day, like, oh, I make things work, right? If it's a tight month, I make it work. I spreadsheet my way out of it. But the truth is, you can only spreadsheet your way out of insufficiency so far because you can't manage dollars that don't have room to breathe. Yeah. And, in Proverbs 10:15, it says, a rich man's wealth is his strong city. So this isn't about glorifying money. It's acknowledging that protection and margin are important. Right? Income is the fuel behind our financial decisions. And when we don't have space, when we don't have margin, even good financial advice can become exhausting instead of empowering, right? I talk to people often that are like, that's great. I'd love to do that, but I can't even rub two pennies together at the end of a month. Right. Yeah. And so that's why that make phase has to be emphasized early, not out of greed, but out of wisdom and understanding how to manage that money when it comes in so that you don't stay stuck in this phase.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And it's not, again, folks, it's not about being rich to become rich, right? It's to be able to create that margin for yourselves. And not only that, helping you be generous with others, your family, the kingdom, things like that, enable to you to, do more, have more of an impact. And that's really what it's all about. That, to give you the breathing room to be able to get your financial house in order, right? Rather than just that constant struggle of trying to get to the next paycheck, right? Trying to get to the next month and celebrating, okay, I made it through this month, but guess what? Now we get to do it all over again. And it's that never ending cycle, if you will, kind of like, that the hamster wheel, right? And, by creating that breathing room, that margin, you're able to do so much more. Not only that, the stress level that you have, you're going to see it go down considerably as well if you enact the right plan, right? And I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about, why waiting can be the most expensive strategy. We always talk about, well, if I only had this, or, I'll invest later, I'll focus on wealth after debt, and I'll start building once things settle down, right? I can't do anything now for, building wealth or saving for retirement because I got to pay off my house and get the kids through school. And so the time keeps moving. And, we've talked about this in past episodes that more valuable than money is time.
Yeah.
And most people don't think about it because, especially when you're young, you think you got all the time in the world. The next thing you look up in your 40s, 50s, going, well, what happened, right? So, the noise out there from, other financial gurus and things like that talking about that, it creates a lot of confusion out there. But I want to be crystal clear, PITK, we reject the idea that you should pause one area of progress to fix another. Okay. Waiting costs you compounding. Okay. It costs you the compounding. It costs you momentum. Okay. Because, oh, I'm not going to get to it. And then, you start with a debt and then something happens, you go back into debt. So you never get to that next step if you do it one at a time. And the waiting costs you confidence, right? And you'd be surprised how much confidence will play into what you're actually doing as far as getting more aggressive on building wealth, getting more aggressive on getting out of debt, getting more aggressive on, building that financial future for your children and your children's children, that legacy piece, right? Now, that doesn't mean you go all in every area at one time. I want to stress that, right? It means that you work on 3 areas concurrently at the same time, but with wisdom, with guidance, right? Early on, more energy obviously is going to go towards the make and manage. Okay, the make, I'm bringing in that extra margin. This is my money. I'm not going to go spend it on lifestyle. I'm going to go spend it on my financial future, right? And managing, increasing that income, increasing that control over your debt, things like that. While the multiply still runs quietly in the background, but it's with smaller contributions, right? It's on a longer time horizon and it's consistent participation and building that investing muscle so you can take advantage of those upticks in, gains in the market or crypto or wherever you're putting your money, right? Without, man, I missed out on another one. I missed out on another one because I'm focused on my debt. So, right, when you start off, it may be, hey, I'm working on income and debt, but I'm still working on investing. And then as that goes down, it starts looking like that. But that way, you're attacking on all fronts from day one and maximizing the time that you have, right?
Yeah.
So
Otherwise,
real quick, you don't get that time back later, folks. There's not, I'm going to work longer because all those compounding years, you can never get that back, right? So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wendy.
No, well, I was just going to say, that make phase, like you're never going to feel like you have enough if you don't get the rest under control. Like you just won't. And so we don't want you, when we talk about making money, it isn't about like a endless, hustle, you have to keep adding. It's about creating margin through alignment, through leverage and intentional decisions regarding your money, whether that's income, spending, all the above. So as income increases, like John was saying, that management part becomes more important, not less. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I have more money, I can pay less attention to where it's going. And, I've seen that. Like a lot of our higher income earning clients have way less handle on where their money's going than our lower, people with lower income. Yeah. And that's actually the opposite of what we need to have happen, right? As you increase that income, be more intentional, right? This is where your cash flow can gain clarity, where your debt reduction can accelerate. You can speed up that timeline of that debt snowball or whatever it is you're using to pay off debt.
Yep. Yep.
And then that stress begins to lift off of you. And we say this scripture a lot, and you're going to hear it over and over. But Proverbs 22:7 says the borrower is slave to the lender. Like,
yeah.
To really get that and understand, I know it's a scripture that's commonly quoted, but it is chains. It is slavery when you're constantly borrowing, when you're constantly getting behind. And to your point earlier, John, you were saying like that breathing room for you got this month covered and then the next one comes. Well, unfortunately, we also see if you don't get this under control, then debt starts stacking.
Yep.
Month to month instead of you getting freedom month to month. So that new income should never create new bondage. I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but when income increases and then you're like, oh, let's add on, this thing or that thing, let's increase the lifestyle. Let's invest in something that's really volatile or whatever.
Now I can afford that new car, or that new truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that just creates more constraint.
Yeah.
So there's another scripture, Deuteronomy 28:12, that says, you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And what scripture tells us is the person in control and the person that's moving ahead and walking in kingdom principles is the one who's lending, not borrowing. It's the one who's building, right? Not being covered with debt.
Yep.
So extra income, give it an assignment, help it reduce your obligations, create stability, clear that runway. And, John talks about building your war chest, right? So that's one of the things too, as income grows. And, when we talk about what to do with your money, part of that is putting away for those emergencies, putting away for 3 to 6 months of expenses, in your business, it's putting some back so you can pay yourself a regular income. And so this isn't about restriction and saying, no, you can't do this. It's about positioning. There we go. Positioning. I've had too much sugar today with all the Christmas cookies. But that make is going to fuel the manage, and the manage is going to protect your progress while you start to multiply.
Got it. Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And one kind of feeds into the other, and it becomes a synergy of everything. You bring in the make, you're managing your debt, you're putting money away, even though it's a smaller amount at first, you're still making that happen for you and your family, right? But as far as the multiply part, like I said, it starts early, but it starts small, right? We never stop multiply. We scale it appropriately based on what we're attacking on all three fronts, right? And the multiplication is modest, but guess what? It's still happening. It's intentional and it's a long-term play. Okay. Psalm 112:3 says, wealth and riches are in his house and his righteousness endures forever. Wealth isn't built for life. Excuse me. Now I'm thinking of the sugar cookies, right? Wealth isn't built after life is perfect. It's built through consistency over time, right? And not only that, you're building that muscle. If you haven't run in a while and you start running, you haven't worked out in a while. I mean, tomorrow everybody's going to be hitting the gym, right? January 1st. But you look at that, it's painful at first, but then it gets easier and easier and easier. And then you start seeing even just a little bit of a progress. That's why, I've talked about the debt snowball. I love the debt snowball because you start with the smallest to the tallest as far as your balances. Well, the building wealth, the multiplying piece is the same way. Start small, but start today, right? And then as the debt decreases and cash flow stabilizes, right? Money naturally shifts. This is the natural thing. This is what happens, right? Less towards debt, more towards investment, right? More towards asset building. Okay. Same framework, different weighting, 0 wasted years. And that's key, right? That's key. So, we talk about this and we're going to continue to talk about this because here's why, folks. It actually works. Okay. It's real life application and it works. Okay. Here's why. Number one, you don't need to wait for perfect conditions. Okay. You're not waiting for perfect conditions. Someday, sunshines, lollipops, and all that stuff. You're in the storm, but hey, I'm showing that I'm conscious about this. I'm here and I'm going to start doing it today, even though it's small. Okay. You don't rush the growth. Unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh, get rich quick. I'm not seeing any, my garden didn't grow overnight, right? These aren't magic beans like Jack and the Beanstalk. Okay. This is a long-term strategy. When you plant your garden, if you garden, you know what I'm talking about. You don't plant your garden in, late March, early April, and then poof, by May 1st, you've got a big, bountiful garden. It doesn't work like that way with money either. Okay. But you adjust as progress is made. Okay. Make creates the margin that we talked about. Manage creates the control. You are in control of your money. And if you don't control your money's going to control you. And a lot of you probably can relate to that because you're stressed out every month going, man, there's more month than money again. Okay. It doesn't have to be that way for you. And then multiply compounds consistency. Okay. Make creates the margin, manage creates the control, multiply compounds consistency. All right. And guess what, folks? Simple structure beats stress 99.999% of the time. Right. And consistency beats that intensity. So, it works, folks. I'm here to tell you. And, it just, I don't know. Anything to add on that, Wendy?
Yeah. Well, you saying consistency beats intensity. It's like I'm seeing that in so many areas of my life, that it's those small habits that we make in our lives that we practice regularly. You can go on, people do these no spend, for a week and it's great, right? Like, oh, I'm going to sell everything and build my emergency fund. Like, it's great to go ahead and put forth a ton of effort and get the ball rolling. But if you don't have consistency in something as simple as looking at what's coming in the door and what's going out every single month, right? Telling your money what to do. If you don't create those habits, then, it becomes all for nothing because you're going to lose control of all of it. And so creating those little habits with consistency, and that consistency in just putting money away, like we said, is your time is your best friend with that. And so, as this year comes to a close, really, here's the challenge that we have for you is to stop waiting for the perfect moment. I mean, I had a couple conversations this past week of people that are like, I want to get with you when. I want to get with you when. And let me tell you that the time to get with us to help get a plan in place is now, before you feel like it's perfect. That's the whole point of what we do, right?
Yeah, there will never be a perfect time. It's just like having kids, right? There's never a perfect time to have kids. There's never a perfect time to start building your financial future. Right. The time is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, ask yourself, how can I make more intentionally? How can I manage with clarity? And how can I multiply consistently starting now? And we can help you map that out specifically for you, for where you are today. We do our wealth map calls. We sit down and say, where are you today? What's your income versus expenses? What are your assets and liabilities? Where are you now? Where do you want to get to? And we come back together with you and literally map out. And it's not, here's all the things you have to do right now. It's here's what we need you to do now. Here's what you need to focus on now. Here's the things that we need to start thinking about in the next 2 years. Here, 5 years from now, where you need to start adjusting. And then we meet with you, every year to help make sure that you're on that roadmap, because this isn't an overnight process. And again, when you're ready, it might be 5-10 years down the road and you're still not there, and you're going to wish you would have done this today. So if you want help mapping this out, you can go to safemoneyroadmap.com, fill out the information there, and it will put you with one of our calendars, and we will get working with you. And it's about doing the right things together in the right proportion. And we want to help you build that next year on purpose. So anything else you want to add?
Yeah. And just to kind of, I want to reiterate, we're not your traditional financial advisory firm out there, right? What do I mean by that? Number one, we're going to look holistically at what's going on in your life, right? There's 6 areas that we cover. Number two, we're going to meet you where you're at on your budget. Okay. I want to stress that. Okay. Well, I don't really know that you have enough. I'm just telling you, it may be a small amount. We'll still work with you and give you a fantastic plan to get something going. And last week I said this, and I want to reiterate it this week, since it is the last day of 2025. If you're not where you thought you would be financially at this point in your life, number one, why not? Number two, let's do something about it starting in 2026, right? That's all I got to add. Just again, show us a little love, help us out. We're trying to grow the channel. Do us a favor, click that little like button, that little heart button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple, give us a 5-star plug. That would be greatly appreciated. And share it on your social media. We bring this channel to help people, again, become financially free, to get their financial house in order and say, yes, you too can start building wealth no matter where you're starting at. Because remember, it's not where you start, it's where you finish up. And because of the time, there are no do-overs. So take advantage of every second you have. So everybody, I want to wish everybody a happy and safe New Year's. If you're going out tonight, please be safe. And don't forget to use your phone and, call a cab or call an Uber or something like that. Don't roll the dice. And you've got an awesome 2026. Wendy, it's been awesome to work with you this year. I'm looking forward to another year of awesome collaboration and a lot of new things coming on the pipeline, folks. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.